It's James Phillips on WJLX, and I think that we're out, but I'm not hearing very well.
I'm not hearing anything.
If you'll just check. And check 1, 2. Check. There we go.
There we are.
Now I can hear everything. It's Live at 9 with James Phillips here on WGLX, presented by Young Jewelers, and we've got a special guest this morning. I'm so used to you being representative, but you are Senator Matt Woods now.
That's right.
And I think that's what we're going to talk about to start with is why go senator and the difference between representative, senator. Just kind of tell listeners about that choice to make that change.
Sure. Well, thanks, James. It's good to be here with you guys this morning. I appreciate the opportunity to get to visit. The question of the difference in representative and senator, there's 35 state senators. We represent about 150,000 people each. And in the House, you have 105 House members.
Right.
With about 45,000 each. So a little bigger area. In House District 13 that I previously held the seat for the last 3 years. That's all in Walker County now. A lot bigger area. All of Walker County, Fayette County, Lamar County, northern Tuscaloosa, and western Jefferson. So it's a huge geographic area. And that's the biggest change in my role, I guess, is just the volume of calls and the different commissions and municipalities and constituents. But it's really the same job. You got the same issues. Everybody cares about a lot of the same things no matter where they're at. You just have a bigger volume. So part of my decision for doing it, I didn't set out necessarily to ever run for office. Just kind of the door opened initially when the House seat came available.
That was going to be one of my questions was, have you always thought of politics and I don't think of you as a politician still. You haven't got to that point yet for me.
Well,
and I hope you don't get there.
Well, I can appreciate that and appreciate you saying that. And that's not a title I ever want to have if you want to know the truth of it. But, I was involved in a lot of things in Walker County in the community, whether it be the chamber or with a lot of the philanthropic groups and nonprofit organizations. That was just things I cared about and enjoyed being a part of. And later on, around 2018, I was appointed to the community college system, which was a really eye-opening experience, and got to travel the state and learn about higher education and career pathways and workforce needs across the state. And so when the opportunity came along in 2022 for the House seat, when Representative Connie Rowe, took her new position with the Lieutenant Governor's office, I just couldn't shake the urge to try to be impactful, in a lot of different ways beyond education. And so nobody saw this coming with Senator Reed, now Secretary Reed, going to become the first Secretary of the Department of Workforce in the state of Alabama, which is a huge deal to have him in that position from right here, in Jasper. That's a big deal for us, and it's a big deal for our state. So no one really saw that coming, me included. And so when that happened, you had to make a decision. Do you make that leap, or do you stay put? I was more than content to continue in the House. I really enjoy serving there. A lot of great people in the House, and the leadership's been good to me, gave me a lot of great committees, and we've had some success. But, it's a different challenge, a little bigger challenge, a little bit, your vote counts a little bit more because there's fewer of you. And you get some different opportunities, I think, to serve and be impactful in a lot more areas. So that was what was alluring to me to put my hat in the ring for that seat.
Well, and we were talking a little bit before we came on the air, and I think one of the areas where you've proven the impact that you've been able to have just even in the House is the amount of money that you've been able to get for our local area and the people that you represent. That has been something that has been outstanding and could only get better with you being a senator now.
Well, that's a big part of the job. Yeah. A project without funding is dead. So you've got to have money. I heard a guy talk the other day at a legislative event. He said, "Money's the answer. Tell me your problem." Right. So that is the answer to a lot of things, and we've had really, really good success. But the state's economy's been strong. We're coming off of a lot of COVID money. Had a lot of those monies in reserve, drawing interest. So we had a surplus of funds in both budgets, and so we were able to get our hands on as many of those dollars as possible. And I think it's somewhere in the neighborhood of $75-80 million. I don't have it in front of me, but it's a lot of money coming back to Walker County outside of the normal appropriations we would get, and that's to a wide range of things. We can discuss those whenever you want. But,
right.
I'm proud of that. We've worked really hard, and Senator Reed gets a ton of credit for that as well, obviously, as the pro tem in his previous role. But we worked hand in glove
Yeah.
on those issues to make sure we're getting our schools funded, getting industrial boards funded, getting broadband funded, just all kinds of good things that we're really proud of.
Oh yeah, definitely. What has been? I mean, you're so new. You haven't done a session as a senator yet, but anything that has surprised you in the new role?
Well, I anticipated it would be busier.
I was going to say the number of emails, did that go up? Probably.
Everything's went up. I'm new to 4 counties from this standpoint. I mean, I knew a lot of people in those counties, but as far as being in this role, so they want to get to know me, and I want to get to know them, and so the volume of meetings and just showing up to events and making sure that they know I'm accessible to the other counties has been important to me. So that volume has been more than I anticipated,
Right.
but it's been a very positive thing. I've learned a lot about their communities, which is important, and I'm grateful to have that opportunity. The only thing to be worse is if they didn't call me at all. So
Right, right. Well, and I really think anything that's a positive with our surrounding counties is a positive for us as well. But I also know Walker County is your home and the place you care about, so it's good when your senator is from your county, always.
Well, it doesn't hurt anything.
Right.
I mean, I think you can look around and see that from our previous senator did a great job for his home county. Of course, I want to continue doing that. But everybody matters. Every county is important. They all have issues that are deeply important, and everybody, I think, from a standpoint of we're a very rural county at the end of the day.
Right.
I mean, Jasper, not so much. You got some municipalities doesn't feel that rural, but we really are a pretty rural county. And certainly Lamar and Fayette, northern Tuscaloosa, West Jefferson, very rural. So,
Right.
Making sure we don't forget rural Alabama is a regional issue. And I think we're going to probably have to start looking at things more regionally to be able to land those projects and get those jobs here. We're going to have to combine efforts as a county and economic development authorities and municipalities to be able to pool our resources and apply for the bigger grants and make sure we can locate those jobs and things that we need here. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping we can kind of bring people together regionally,
Right.
moving forward.
Well, and I think talking regionally, just I-22 is such a regional source and pull for all the counties that you represent, other than Tuscaloosa, I guess.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, I-22 is the one hub that we have that everybody's excited about. It's the one thing we can point to and say if we could just develop this exit, that's going to be the catalyst to start all these new things, and it's happening. Just this last week on Exit 81, West Jefferson, we have a travel center
Right.
groundbreaking. That's 150 jobs. That's exciting. I mean, the town of West Jefferson, they haven't had anything like that in a long time. So that's going to be a huge boost for that town. And you keep coming back to the west. I mean, you got Exit 78 with Dora.
Right. You got the Heritage Landing.
Heritage Landing sitting there. That's going to have some development, I hear, in the next, hopefully, few months start being announced. I mean, I'm hopeful that's the case. And who knows how many jobs that'll be.
Right.
So we're so close to Jefferson County, and there's only so many places it can continue to grow. It's going to come this way.
Right.
And people with I-22 can be downtown in 30 minutes. I mean, it's a great place to live when you think about getting out of the congestion of Jefferson County and get down here and enjoy the little bit slower pace and
Oh, yeah.
lower cost of living.
Well, and I've almost lived at UAB for a couple of years now, and just the proximity to that has been so good with I-22. I don't feel like I'm traveling all day long when I have to go to the hospital or something like that. Like it's a much easier trip than it would have been back in the day.
Without a doubt.
Of course, back in the day, we'd probably been riding horse and buggy to get over there too. But
We're not quite that old.
right. Well, talk a little bit about projects that you had. If you want to talk about this year's projects, what all we had going on locally.
Well, sure. Well, there's several things that have been going on the last couple of years that are just now coming to fruition. We've got the Heman Drummond Center of
Right.
Innovation, which is a huge project spearheaded by the Community Foundation and the Drummond family. That's going to be the new career tech high school here in this county, in this region. And the plans for it are super exciting in the collaboration between the Jasper City and Walker County School Systems and Bevel State. We were able to get a $5 million appropriation in the Education Trust Fund for that. And that's a small amount compared to the overall project, but you don't get singular project line items very often. And so I was really excited to get that. That was a big lift for the school system and for the foundation and all the delegation involved. But we've got another huge announcement coming next week for some more funding that's even more than that. So it will end up being the largest state appropriation for a K-12 project in Walker County history.
Wow.
So I'm really pretty excited to know that it's going to be for that project.
You don't want to break the news right now?
Well, stay tuned.
Right. And if I'm not mistaken, that's going to be announced at the Community Foundation luncheon next week.
That's the plan.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. So we're excited about that. Of course, this project is historic for another reason. You've got probably the largest philanthropic gift ever to a public school system in state history taking place right here. So
Oh, yeah.
it only makes sense for the state to come alongside and partner and put some resources here. It's a great investment for the state.
Well, and on top of just the investment, just the innovation and the education that will be provided there is going to be second to none.
Well, at the end of the day, we all want our children to have a good paying job. And the only way we can provide that is if they have the skills they need to do it. And there's a blue-collar renaissance going on across the country. The skills that you need to work with your hands and do those jobs that, we kind of didn't pay much attention to for a long time, for a couple of decades. We thought you had to be a computer engineer or a doctor. Now, those things are important, but you also need plumbers and pipe fitters and welders and robotics technicians and all these other new things such as, solarization and weatherization and, HVAC is a big thing that we don't think about. There's a huge shortage in that trade as well. So we're going to be able to do a lot of really good, high-paying career pathways right here in Jasper. That's these kids are going to walk out of school, some of them with an associate's degree.
Oh, yeah.
That's huge.
We had that happen
Yes.
this year even.
couple-
There were a couple
what-
kids
yeah.
from Jasper that had gotten associate's degrees before they walked to get their graduation at high school.
That's right. And that's not a new phenomenon. That's been happening in other parts of the state. We're just now kind of getting to a place where everybody's, at the table and created a way to do that. And so I think that's going to become a much more common occurrence. So just think about how much money that saves that child or their family. If they want to go on and get a 4-year degree, they've got 2 years paid for by the state.
Oh, yeah.
So that's really exciting. And you know what? I'm gonna jump right quick to something. We passed a bill this year that I was able to carry that is actually in that same vein called the Move On When Ready Act. And it allows high school juniors and seniors to become full-time college students. All right?
Wow, yeah.
So it's almost like reverse dual enrollment. So they'll be getting credit for their high school classes while they're taking these classes at college.
Right.
And the state's paying for it. So you got a lot of kids who don't play sports or don't, they're not involved in clubs and don't really care to be in the high school setting, but are mature and they're smart and they're ready to move on and be in college and start that process. Well, I think this is going to be a catalyst for a lot of these students to go ahead and get their more advanced degrees. So we're excited about that. We're trying to innovate in our approach to letting these children mature and, get their education in the ways they need to.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that's a really good, and I'd not heard of it at all.
There you go.
So that's news to me.
Yes, sir.
What are some of the other education initiatives that we've done recently?
Well, I passed another bill this year that was one that was just really a personal importance to me for a lot of reasons. Going back to my community college days, the community college system also houses the adult education programs in our state. So think about GED and work skills and non-credit classes that just prepare you to go into the workplace and be ready to enter into the new job. So a lot of folks who didn't go to college or dropped out of school come back to these programs to get ready. So in the state, though, you have a fair number of students who drop out every year. They can drop out at age 17. And nothing was really being done after they had their exit interview. I mean, we didn't know what happened to them. We didn't know we do know that they have a higher percentage of incarceration, underemployment, or unemployment in general. So negative outcomes. So this bill requires the State Department of Education to now tell the adult ed programs about these students, give their information to them so they can reach out to them and let them know, hey, we've got free opportunities for you to come back and get your high school diploma.
Yeah, I was going to say, isn't there a program now where they can go back and finish a couple of courses or whatever they needed and get a high school diploma?
That's right. Yeah, they can still get their high school diploma at the college setting through adult ed, and that's really the goal is to, get them their high school diploma. And if that's not what they want to do, at least we can get them a work skill or credential.
Right.
And not let them drop through the cracks. We have such a hard time getting employees in this state and getting folks off the sidelines and into the job market. And this is just another way we can find a vulnerable population, give them a second chance. And it could be transformative. And I'm already hearing stories from the community college system about students who are taking advantage of this.
Yeah, we have a friend of our family who's in the middle of doing that right now,
Great.
too. Yeah. So.
Well, it could be life-changing for a lot of kids, and so
Yeah.
I'm excited about that.
And the work that's being done as far as just getting the workforce ready, that's something a lot of people don't think about. When any poll that goes out, it's like, what's the biggest issue? And people always say jobs and, that sort of thing. But if you get the jobs here and you don't have the workforce, that's not doing any of us any good.
Well, it's a multifaceted issue, and if you want, it's kind of like if you build it, they will come type mentality. That's true for industrial sites, but it's also true for the workforce. If you train to what you want to be here, and you create a talent pool, eventually they're going to locate you. Just look at Huntsville. I mean, you got all these engineers, you got all these different, high tech jobs up there, and look what's locating there. It's high tech.
Yeah.
So, we may not be in line for that, but there again, we might. It just depends what we want to train for here. And I think that this is going to help with the Heman Drummond Center. We're going to continue to help Bevel State. They're building out a whole new addition to their HVAC training that's going to include some high-tech things such as solarization and fiber optics and
Right.
battery tech trainings, all kinds of really interesting new technologies that we're going to be training for right here.
Yeah.
And that's going to open up a lot of doors for these kids. So
Well,
I'm
you
excited.
mentioned earlier HVAC, and you don't think about it. You don't think about it until it's August and your air conditioner goes out, and then you're thinking about it.
Yeah, and you don't care how much it costs. You
Right,
just
and
wanna be cold.
it's hard to get somebody there because there is such a shortage of people.
It's a great. They have an 11-week fast track process or program there that you can get all the certifications you need in 11 weeks and have a career.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty outstanding and a good paying job. So,
Oh yeah.
those are the types of things across the state that we've got to continue to focus on. And I'm just proud that we have some really robust offerings here in this region. And of course, it's regional. I mean, it's going to help Walker County, but it's going to help the whole entire region. So.
Oh yeah,
it's exciting.
definitely. Well, I want to remind everybody you're listening to Live at 9 on WJLX, and today's guest is Senator Matt Woods, and we're going to take a quick break. I want to let you hear from our sponsor, Young Jewelers. We'll hear from them, and then we'll be right back here on Live at 9. And we are back here on Live at 9 with James Phillips, and we got Senator Matt Woods. Do want to say again, thank you to Young Jewelers for being a sponsor on the show here. We appreciate that. And Matt, we were talking in the break about this session. So kind of hit on some things in this past session that you think were important in the area.
Sure. Well, thank you, James. I appreciate that opportunity. You know, we had a good session this year. I think rural Alabama had a good session in general. But one thing that we always think about is, you know, life's tough right now. Inflation's been high. People are working with less disposable income than they've had, you know, previously, and with the cost of energy and gas and food and, you know, prescriptions, all these things, it's taken a toll on just everyday folks. So
Don't forget eggs.
eggs have been like gold, you know.
Right.
So anything we can do to provide relief, keep money in people's pocket, I think is important. And we had an opportunity this year to extend some tax cuts for the grocery tax. You know, it's a topic that's been big for a long time. We were able to cut the first % of the state's portion a few years ago, and then we decided to go ahead and trigger the next %. The goal is to get rid of it entirely.
Right.
So every % we cut is about $125 million. So now we're looking at about $245 million with this new tax cut that's taking effect October. So you'll start seeing a little bit. No, you know, it's small, it's incremental, but when you look at the whole state, it's important, and it's keeping money where it belongs, and that's in people's pockets. I mean, people's struggling right now, so we got to do all we can to continue to provide tax cuts. We had another one that I was pretty excited about as well for young families, and especially mothers, starting out families. We're eliminating the state income tax on infant supplies, things like diapers, baby formula, wipes, other essentials. I think that's important, way that we
Right.
can support families. So we did some other things for small business owners to try to encourage entrepreneurship. Certainly, small businesses are the backbone of our state. I mean, they employ the most folks, and so we got to do some things to provide them some relief as well. But a really good year for cutting taxes, and we're going to continue to look for ways to further those. I think that's something everybody needs, and we certainly, as we have growth in the budget, we can do those things. We got to do it responsibly.
Right.
You know, I would love to just come in and cut out every tax. I'm like everybody else. I don't like paying them either, but it takes them. That's how we fund our schools. That's how we fund, you know, all kinds of things that we have to do. So, you know, we got to do it in a responsible way. And I think a little bit here and there incrementally actually is probably the responsible way to do that.
Well, and since we're talking about cutting taxes, I wouldn't be the award-winning journalist that I've grown up to be if I didn't at least ask you about the overtime tax, and that because that was something that you guys had passed and then had to come back and kind of say, well, we might have gone a little too far there. What are your thoughts on that?
You know, initially the estimate on that was around $30 to $40 million. I think it ended up coming in around $300 million plus. So, you know, I don't know how analysts missed that badly.
Yeah, I was going to say, how did we miss that bad?
You know, I don't get paid to crunch those numbers, so I certainly don't claim to know how they missed. But, you know, that's one reason the legislature decided if we're going to have that big of a tax cut that only affects a certain segment of the population who can earn overtime, let's look for some other broader tax cuts that could put money in everybody's pocket. So
Right.
the grocery tax would be one of them. We're looking at some other ways maybe to do in the future some broader income tax cuts that everybody can take advantage of. Some things for seniors. We had a bill this year that would have raised the portion from retirement income that was exempt from state income taxes. So it's a broad thing. You know, I would have been proud to continue, you know, the overtime tax cut, but that measure was not going to continue. So
Right.
you know, we just started looking for other ways that we could get support to actually broaden the tax. So
Right.
I actually co-sponsored the first bill to cut the income tax on overtime.
Right, I thought so. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, it's obviously a great plan, a great idea. We want to encourage folks to go to work. But, you know, the appetite was to broaden out and put money in everybody's pocket instead of just, you know, a certain segment.
Right. And the grocery tax is something that has been close to my heart for a long time. I remember writing 15 years ago or more about, hey, we need to get rid of the grocery tax. And I think that doing it in the slow way might not be the way that people would hope, but you want to make sure that it sticks, you know.
Sure. Well, to cut it out entirely was going to be about $500 million. And so when
Right.
you start talking about $500 million, that's that cuts into being able to provide raises for teachers and fund education needs and all kinds of other things that we're doing. So
Right.
it's It's just a balancing act. It's
Yeah.
a big budget, and it's a big balancing act.
Definitely so. What else did you have? I know one thing that is important here locally that I've heard a lot of people talking about is the local pharmacies
Sure.
issues that are going on.
That's a huge topic that's been going on for a while. The Community Pharmacy Act is the name of the bill that we passed this year. It's aimed at pharmacy benefit manager reformation. So a lot of people don't understand that. If you're not in the pharmacy world, I certainly didn't before getting in the legislature. But when you think about the first line of healthcare for a lot of people is their pharmacist.
Right.
They are some of the most trusted individuals in the community. And when you get out into the more rural areas, you don't have chain pharmacies. You have independents.
Right.
You have small business owners who went off and decided, hey, I'm going to be a pharmacist. I'm going to come back here and operate my business in XYZ town. Well, that's great. And that they provide a tremendous service, and they're trusted, as I mentioned. But they are handicapped in a lot of ways because they are forced to sell a lot of their prescriptions at a loss.
Right.
The contracts they receive from the insurance companies through the pharmacy benefits managers dictate how much they can be reimbursed. And so they call it negative reimbursements. And when 30 to 40% of all the prescriptions you fill are at a loss, that's a bad business model.
Definitely so.
So last year, more than 50 independent pharmacies shut their doors. It's becoming a situation where they were losing money. They couldn't sell their business. And, it doesn't take long at that pace till especially rural Alabama is in trouble. Because, I remember going to my local pharmacist, Gross down in Parrish.
Oh, yeah.
We'd go there. We didn't go to the doctor. We went to see him, and he'd tell us what's wrong with us.
Yeah.
Now, I know that's not necessarily the way it's supposed to go, but
That's how I did too.
but
I went to
yeah.
Griffin and Sipsey.
Sure.
That was the thing to do.
and that just speaks to the point. We trust them.
Yeah.
And so we can't afford to lose them. And so this bill actually dictated that they can't be forced to sell a loss. So now they'll be reimbursed at least the cost of the prescription. It's not going to change anything at the cash register,
Right.
For the end user, the consumer, but it is going to protect them long term to make sure that they're not, basically being forced into going out of business.
Right.
All for the benefit of the chain pharmacy who was making a profit on the same prescription.
Right.
So that's not fair. It wasn't a level playing field, and it's a small business issue at the end of the day, and we needed to weigh in and level the playing field. And that's what we did.
Well, and I still use an independent pharmacy. I use Carbon Hill Drugs, and I live in Jasper, but they deliver it to my house.
Mm-hmm.
And Walgreens and Walmart, they're not going to deliver anything to my house. I'll have to go fight people to get there. So I like dealing with, and then you can call a local pharmacist and tell them your thoughts and your concerns, and they'll work it out with you. And that I think that's, to me, that's just the thing to do. But
Well, it's been a multi-year effort. A lot of our local pharmacists were engaged in coming down to Montgomery and advocating. Had a lot of meetings last year in the off season about this, and we finally found a middle ground everybody could live with. And I hope this saves the day for a lot of folks. I think it will.
right.
So in that same vein, there's a couple other healthcare related bills that we did last year that I think were pretty transformational. One was related to Alpha. The Farmers Federation had the desire through their insurance company to offer a health plan. So, for younger entrepreneurs, think about family farms in the second, third generation growing up on the farm. They want to continue to work there. They want to, that's their way of life. But they have a family and they need to provide health care. Well, we had instances where some young families that were farmers were paying $2,500 a month for insurance. Well, that's not sustainable.
No, not
that's
at all.
a huge cost, and it's one of the biggest costs for any small business is health insurance. So this program will we have 10 other states that are doing this currently. It's not called insurance; it's a health plan, but it provides the same service at 30 to 60% less cost. So it's not for everybody. It's for younger families. It's for self-employed. I can relate to that. I mean, I think going back over the last 20 years, how much that would have benefited my own family
Right.
to been able to purchase that insurance at a much reduced rate. So that's going to be a great offering in the market to create competition and help. A lot of entrepreneurs continue to be entrepreneurs because they're working 2 and 3 jobs just for insurance. So we want them to be successful where they're at.
Yeah, and I think if there's any market that needs some competition, it's probably the insurance marketplace.
You said it. One more, you see in the news often rural hospitals closing, shuttering their doors, closing services, all kinds of concerns around the state about that. Since 2011, a half dozen rural hospitals have closed, and there's roughly 52 remaining that are considered at risk. And so, how do we address that need? Because again, it's a huge healthcare concern. You got a lot of rural areas that have to drive an hour
Right.
to find a medical facility. So, it's estimated that 20 rural hospitals could close any day. So we were able to pass a bill this year that provided rural hospital investment tax credits, and that would allow individuals or businesses or corporations to receive up to 100% tax credit for donations that they make to rural medical centers. Now, originally, Walker County, since that's where we're at right now, didn't qualify as a rural county, but we were able to change that, make sure that we have that opportunity here as well.
Yeah.
So, looking for ways that we can keep those places open. There's a similar program in Georgia's generated $430 million doing this. So we think, as it rolls out, it's going to be a lifesaver for a lot of our smaller and more rural health centers. So
Yeah.
we're excited about that. And, going back, we were talking earlier, I want to mention a project that's huge. A lot of people don't know about, going back to job creation and things that are happening here local. Heritage Industrial Park, exit 78. We see the one from the interstate. That's the commercial retail development at Heritage Landing. But go south on Sharon Boulevard to Shanghai Church
Right.
and look just past it. There's 200 acres that are being cleared that's going to be an industrial park. And I think maybe one of the best positions in the entire, maybe I-22 corridor.
Right. Yeah.
So we were able to access right at $5 million through various grant programs through the state to provide the Walker County Commission and the Walker County Industrial Development Authority with those funds to purchase that land, 200 acres, and develop it. Because one thing we don't have in this area of the state is flat ground.
Right.
That is the
Yeah.
most limiting factor we have. Is we don't have flat ground. So
Right.
we have to make it flat if we want to have things here.
And it costs a lot of money to make it flat.
It is incredibly expensive. So, when we talk about job creation, it's not always let's go fly somewhere and meet with a CEO and beg them to come here and locate. You have to create them a space to operate.
Right.
You have to create them a workforce. It all works hand in glove. So doing those, foundational things I think is important. It's not always exciting. People aren't jumping up and down about it, but one day we'll look up there and there'll be several hundred jobs
Yeah.
at that location, and that's the win. So you have to have a long vision on these things. And that's
Yeah. Right now you could look over there and just go, that's some flat land.
It's beautiful though for an economic developer. But that was the bulk of what I had from a legislative standpoint. I mean, we're going to be working on some things this next year as well that we're excited about. I'm the father of a 15-year-old daughter. I've got a lot of nieces and nephews in public schools. I passed a bill through the House last year that had 100% yes votes, bipartisan support for a bill related to school threats.
Yeah, that was one thing I was going to mention, the school threat bill. I thought that was and because we went through such a period last year of constantly, it was almost every day there were school threats here locally and across the state. And there's got to be some kind of teeth in this to keep those things from happening so much.
Well, that's the goal, and this bill is very comprehensive. I mean, it's going to put in safeguards. It's going to elevate charges if it's an adult, but it's also going to do some things for these kids. Now, listen, good kids do bad things. I mean, I was a kid. I did dumb things. It happens.
Yeah.
But we live in a day and age where mental health issues abound in schools, and you can't take anything lightly. And so if somebody makes this threat, we're going to have to make sure we vet them, send them through a psychological evaluation, provide them with counseling, just figure out, are they really interested or capable of doing this before we put them back in the school setting?
Right.
And, I heard from a lot of teachers and parents last year. I heard from some local pediatric offices who had children coming in needing medication for anxiety because they were scared to go to school. That's terrible. I mean, we've got to do something to curb that behavior. And so this bill does a lot of things, but that's the goal, make sure that we do that. And it's getting a ton of attention statewide because this isn't just a Walker County thing. This happens everywhere.
Right.
And, the most important job we have is protecting our children, keeping them safe. When we drop them off at school, we expect they're going to have a great day. They're going to learn, they're going to play, they're going to come home, and it's going to be great. Well, it's not always the case. So Fortunately, in the state, we haven't had any threats acted out, and we want to make sure we keep it that way.
Right. Yeah. I think that's a great bill that was passed, and I mean I've seen firsthand with I'm like you. I have kids that go to public school, and things have changed from the time that we were in school. We would have never thought we could be in any danger at school.
Right.
But now you hear about it all the time, and there's a shooting almost constantly across our country, and so kids worry about those type of things.
They do, and that's a worry I wish they didn't have to have. But we're going to do some things that put some consequences into that breaking that law, and remove the threat from the situation.
Well, anything just coming up locally that you can think of that folks need to know about? I know we've mentioned next week is the Community Foundation Luncheon, and that's always a great event, and they pour so much into our community as far as money goes, but just fresh ideas and things like that. And then
Sure. Well, I think there's a few things coming up. I mean, obviously, the Community Foundation Luncheon will be a huge event. We'll learn a lot more about the Heman Drummond Center. Foothills Festival is always exciting coming up. I mean, I always look forward to that. We've got a tourism grant to support Foothills Festival this year again. It's going to be a lot of fun. Have a lot of good times there. And then, obviously, football season.
Yeah, that's true.
We're excited about that.
Yeah.
I'll give a shout out to the Walker County Republican Party is hosting a barbecue meet and greet for the candidates who are going to be replacing me in the House District 13. That's coming up soon. So check out their Facebook page and get the details for that.
And that's free barbecue, I think, for anybody who wants to come.
Free barbecue.
So, I mean, you
come
can't
out
turn
and
that down.
Meet these guys and learn about them and have some food on the Republican Party. We'd love to have you.
Yeah. And football season, you mentioned that coming up. We've got, before we go, I'll definitely plug what the station's doing. Later today, we start our coaches shows at Crawfish Warehouse. They're the sponsor this year, and I'll be there this evening talking to a county coach. We'll have Coach Cordell from Curry there, and then from 6:30 to 7, we'll have the Coach David Reeves show, and I'll be hosting it each week. And then tonight, we have our first football game of the season. It's going to be Oakman and Cordova playing. That'll be live on 88.5 FM. And then tomorrow night, we've got a county game of the week that will be Carbon Hill at Curry. And then Jasper will be hosting Brookwood on this station here. So can't wait for the first week of football. And then it's just right around the corner. College football will start up in the next week or so as well.
It's the best time of year. I'm excited.
And it feels better out there today. It's not 150 degrees. So,
that's right. It's football weather.
And I think by next week it's supposed to be a lot cooler. So hopefully we can feel a little fall in the air.
That's that. I'm excited. Let's do it.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for listening to Live at 9 today. Tomorrow we'll be back, and I've got Brack Bradley and Al Blanton coming in. They have put together a documentary on Coach Glenn Clem that's going to be premiering this weekend. So that'll be something cool for everybody to check out and hear about the legend Coach Clem. And then we've got football, as I said, and now at 10 o'clock, Woody Wilson will be coming in. The professor of rock and roll will start his show right at 10, and he'll be going from 10 to 2 today. And until tomorrow, I'm James Phillips. Thanks for everybody here at WJLX, and thank you guys for listening. We'll be back tomorrow on Live at 9.